Hello to current and future leaders. Thanks so much for joining us today. We have a special show for you. We started this show, The Big Idea, because we know that Southeast Asia is filled with so many amazing, dynamic, exciting leaders. And we have one such leader here today to talk to me, talk to all of you, answer audience questions. Let's bring her in now. Aimee Ramlee, please join the show.
Hi, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Hello. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, there's so much we could talk about today. We could talk about growing up, living in Brunei. We can talk about your trips in the United States. We can talk about your involvement with USG programs. There's so much. But I thought we would start with a very special program that the United States, or the US mission to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations has been conducting for many years now, and that is the Women's Leadership Academy, of which you are an alumna. Please tell our
Yeah.
audience a little bit. Please tell our audience a little bit about what is Women's Leadership Academy.
The Women's Leadership Academy was really the brainchild of the first ever U.S. ambassador to ASEAN, Ambassador Nina Hashigan, quite a few years back. And it was really a way to not only bring women leaders from across Southeast Asia together, but help us in terms of capacity building, really trying to optimize the tools that we had in our toolbox so that we can go back home and really deliver impact in our communities. And I think the WLA is the only program that's running in ASEAN that's annual. Is that correct? I think for in terms of YSEALI, that's a repeated annual program.
Well, we also have a grant program called Seeds for the Future, which we've been
Very
running
true. Yes.
annually. So we have that program, but Women's Leadership Academy is a very special program. It is different from Seeds, but it has been running for many years now. And we hope to continue running it every year for many years to come. Actually, we just started it. Some people in the audience may know, but we just started this week our 2022 cohort. So that was very exciting. 55 women from across ASEAN member states, plus Timor-Leste, are participating this year.
Oh, it's really exciting. And I'm really looking forward to meeting all of them. And I think a big part of the WLA that's really special is the alumni network. So after you get to join the WLA, the cohort, especially I'm excited about this year, will be able to join this amazing network of almost 300 strong women across Southeast Asia who are really amazing trailblazers in their own countries.
So let's just talk a little bit more about the program. It's a training program. It's an opportunity for women to have conversations about lots of different issues. What are some of can you share at least one really interesting conversation or presentation from your time in 2017?
Long time ago. No, I remember.
It's been a while.
Yeah. No, I remember a very specific session that really stumped a lot of us, and this was a really difficult one. It was about personal branding, and I don't know if you meet a lot of it's not just women, but women more so that I've come across who are not really great at tooting their own horn, and so it was a special session run to help us really develop our personal brands. How do we really build that through platforms such as LinkedIn, through any of our social networks, because that's the key to really selling our mission and whatever it is that we're working on. If we're convincing we're credible, we get to really bring people on board to what we're doing. It was hard because how do you encapsulate your entire existence or what you want to achieve into, let's say, one sentence? And so that really stuck with me. And I know speaking to other participants at the WLA later on, that's still a session that really challenges them because it really makes you think about who you are, what do you want to do, and how do you communicate that to people. So that was a really it was a beneficial session, but also it caused a lot of introspection for many.
That's really, really tough. I'm so glad you mentioned that topic because it really is a challenge. We've all met people who maybe we didn't think were contributing that much or the most talented, but those individuals had the most amazing communication skills and were so able to sell themselves. Meanwhile, the member of the team who was contributing the most was perhaps a little shy or not as good at promoting herself. And in the long run, who usually gets promoted, who gets the opportunities? The ones who can self promote, unfortunately.
Exactly.
And we all have to compete to do so.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. So that was in 2017. And did you get to gather in a group in some location?
Oh, we were very fortunate to be able to gather in Jakarta at that point, and we got to meet everybody. And you know, it was lovely to also see the team from U.S. Mission, and we do. But that really helped cement sort of this network that we wanted to build afterwards. In fact, the alumni network came about the year after our cohort, and so we were really the first batch of WLA alumni who were able to sort of utilize this network. I know the current one is virtual, and I know the past couple of years because of COVID has been virtual. But from having spoken to a lot of them, I'm hoping that we can still nurture that real relationship that you build with everybody, and in fact see some projects and collaborations that come out of it.
I would like to believe we are. And of course, we hope, if not this year, certainly next year, that we'll be able to gather them together. That would be wonderful. So when you got together with all these dynamic, amazing women, you must have come across some interesting misconceptions, misunderstandings, cultural differences. What are some of the stereotypes that people have about Brunei that
Oh.
maybe you could clear up today?
Oh, plenty. I think a big one is really the role of women. And so, being an Islamic country, there's always this misconception that women don't really have as much in terms of presence or a role in society. However, in Brunei, we actually have more women in tertiary education, more women actually in some parts of the workforce. We have more women working. I think a bigger proportion of women working than men working in professional roles. And so I feel that the presence of women participants from Brunei in a lot of international events has really helped to unpick that bias and really break that bias and help people understand that really women from Brunei achieve a lot, and we hold a lot of senior roles here. And I think a lot of the records that are being held by Bruneians are actually by women. So the first Bruneian to the South Pole, yes, the South Pole is actually a woman, and the first Bruneian to circumnavigate the globe, a woman. And so, it's been really an amazing experience to sort of dismantle that and share a bit more of our culture and our people. And one interesting thing that we shared during the 2017 session was how Bruneians are crazy cat people. And that was actually our cultural presentation for the night. Instead of serenading people with songs or poetry, we actually told people about our obsession with cats. So I'm sure those who are from Brunei will understand. And others, I invite you to talk to a Bruneian, and I promise you it will surprise you.
And I know there's a cat somewhere in your residence, somewhere.
There are many cats, Jason.
Many cats.
Many
Now,
cats.
when you talk to your mother or your grandmother or your aunt or other female role models in Brunei, this level of participation in civil society that you described in Brunei, is that something recent? Has that been around for many generations?
Well, definitely in Brunei, it's something that I personally take for granted as being around. I know there are different fluctuations in terms of women's participation over time, but historically, Southeast Asia as a region has always had prominent or strong matriarchal societies. And this is something that most people don't realize. Southeast Asia actually has a history of having women leading their communities. And this has really only changed in the past 100 years. And so, but here in Brunei specifically, I think the But especially around the time of independence in the 70s, 80s, once the oil wealth started being spent by the government, it actually led to a real need for a local workforce. And I think they learned early on that you needed to unlock the female workforce in the country, and that led to lots of equal education was a really big factor in this, and so equal access to education for all women and men has really led to a balance or a fair balance in terms of participation in the workforce.
Fantastic, good to hear. But that it's been around for a while, and of course there's some additional room for improvement. There always is. The conversation is never over. Before I ask a question about that, I'm just going to pause for a moment. Thanks to anyone in our audience who is joining us. If you are, please feel welcome to share a comment, a question. And even if you're not watching this live and you found us on YouTube, share a question. We know where Aimee is. We can certainly share those questions with her at a later date. But let's talk about where are some areas in Brunei, in Southeast Asia, and certainly the United States, the world, where are some issues for expanding women's rights that you focus on and you would like to see a change?
I think there are two very specific areas that I know is relevant for Brunei, but also is quite relevant globally, but specifically for Brunei, it's really representation at the top. And so where policies are being decided and made, we need equal representation, not just for women, but really for all different backgrounds, because I think diversity is really important when you're developing policy for the public, because at the end of the day, it affects their lives, and it's as much as you can be inclusive in the development of those policies, the more sustainable it is in terms of how well it can live on in its application, and really how you can see impact. But one thing that's really close to my heart is really addressing the gender imbalance in the home. And this is specifically when it comes to things like unpaid labor that happens, whether it is childcare, work at home, caretaking. A lot of that sort of unrecognized labor has a real direct impact to the development of women leaders in any country. And so there are more, I guess, prominent examples in some countries than others, but even in a country that has really great access to education, equal access to work and education, and I guess cheap childcare like Brunei, we still see the impact of women having to bear the brunt of a lot of this unpaid care work, because it will really hinder the extent to which someone can fulfill their potential. And it doesn't help, obviously, not just the economy, the state of your culture and society, but really being able to, or at least enabling men also to feel like they can take on some roles that society might have said, this is not for you. So things like childcare, being around when you're caring for newborns, children, and so policies that help to address that balance, such as equal paternity care, but also having conversations in the home and awareness for all members of each family will go a long way to helping fix or at least gaining more equality when it comes to gender roles. And hopefully young boys and girls, when they grow up and see that both parents are sharing the load equally at home, will also feel that actually everyone has a role to play and everyone has the ability to play all roles. And I think that is really critical.
And of course, we saw significant challenges over the past couple of years because of COVID in many situations where either the father or mother was staying home. Suddenly, one parent lost a job, or situations changed because of COVID, and both parents had to work, or I mean, there were just constant changes. There's so many different issues, the way that the COVID impacted childcare and the ways that people were living before the pandemic hit. I'm sure you saw some of these situations in Brunei.
Oh, in my own home. So having a 2-year-old who would have been in nursery at that point.
Right,
I
meant to mention that.
Yeah.
The schools went virtual, so that changed a lot of decisions that parents could make. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the most important thing is there's just so much that you can achieve through policy. A lot of the hardest challenges when it comes to tackling gender inequality in any society are really sort of the unspoken rules. It's really the norms that really need to be challenged. And that all starts in the home. And it starts with conversations with your loved ones. And so for all of you who are YSEALI members and you're thinking, what can I do? Start by looking at your family and looking at your role in the family. If you're a boy and you're thinking, am I doing enough or am I not doing enough? Same with a girl, am I doing too much? And start those conversations. That's one of the key ways to help tackling this at somewhere that was most meaningful for you.
Now it's Women's History Month, so I would
Mhm.
love for you to share some of your role models, either Bruneian or Southeast Asian. Who are some women that we should know about?
Well, this is really difficult because I think I have a lot of role models that strong women that I grew up with here locally who have a much larger influence than historical ones. However, I do want to mention, for example, uh, well, I keep thinking about Michelle Obama simply because I think the example that she's shown in overcoming her background and what would normally be considered as really restricting or prohibitive for someone coming from that part of America with all those challenges and still being able to really build herself up, having absolutely no mention of being first lady but just her career itself. It's really shown how that can be articulated in a story that is really impactful and compelling. And I think she's not unique. There are many women like that. And so we're trying to highlight more women like that here in Southeast Asia through our platforms like SoutheastAsiaWomen.org. And so if you're looking for a role model or a mentor who's closer to home, who's facing the same challenges you are, and yet still blazing a trail in the industries that they're in, we don't have to look far. I personally look to my mom. I look to the women in my family. I come from a family of, so my mom's side, there's 7 women. All
Hmm.
of them are business owners or leaders in their own right. A lot of them are single moms. And so seeing them do that and knowing that, well, she works, she's able to do this. She'd love help, but she rises to the challenge. And I think seeing that day to day is far more impactful to me than a historical figure, simply because they resonate with me more.
Mm-hmm. And in Brunei, Southeast Asia, do you think that men are becoming increasingly open to this message, or is there still a long way to go?
I think there's a generational gap there. So I know a lot of the younger men I know are very, very much advocates and really allies to sort of the cause of gender equality because they understand that this benefits them. This benefits not. It's not about women. It's about making sure we all have a fair existence in life, and that means also enabling men to be able to embrace things that normally they'd be punished to embrace, for example being sensitive or being maternal or being caring. And these are things that really sort of toxic masculinity that really hinders their own growth. And so a lot of men I know are aware and are supportive. There might be generational challenges to understanding some of these concepts simply because it's perhaps requires translation to a certain extent. And culturally, there are some cultural barriers to understanding this as well. But we do want to make sure that this is something that isn't imposed, and this is something, so the notion of gender equality and being able to achieve that is really something that is culturally sensitive, because there are obviously conversations to be had to ensure that it's accepted by all. And so this is something that will constantly be, I guess, approached by different people differently. And so I hope having young people through YSEALI who are advocates for gender equality, being able to reach out to those family members that they know and really making sure that they understand it in a way that they can, we can really move the needle. And so this is a work in progress. And I think culturally, we all have different challenges depending on where we're from. And Southeast Asia, as you know, is extremely diverse. And we all have different ways of that we can approach this. So some of the projects I'm hoping to work on this year will look at addressing that specific challenge and really contextualizing gender inequality according to each country and language and culture, and hoping to be able to translate this concept in a way that can be meaningful.
Mm-hmm. It's also an issue of representation, as you said earlier. People now in the United States, the idea of having a woman boss is so commonplace, we don't even think twice about it. It's if someone said there 100 years ago, if someone had said, "Oh, my boss is a woman," it might have been unusual. In 2022, it's not unusual. And now the United States has its first female vice president, so things are definitely changing and moving in terms of equality and equity for the sexes, definitely. So I also want to talk about something very special that was started a while back with some Seeds for the Future funding, another US government program, US Mission to ASEAN program. And that is a special website which you started called southeastasiawomen.org. Please tell us a little bit about this website.
So this is actually, I would consider this like a legacy project from the Women's Leadership Academy. So one of the things that we realized when we were all in the same room and we were all, so back then we didn't have a theme, everyone came from different sectors and different industries. And it was wonderful to see how generous people were with their skills and resources. So you'd have hands up offering to say, I can help anyone who wants support with tech related issues, or someone who wants to know more about human rights issues, or gender based violence, anything like that. There were experts in the field in the room. And so we were talking about how do we harness this from across the region. There are women who are really generous with their skills, time, and expertise. And yet, there isn't really a way for people to reach out or even know that it even exists. You don't really realize the wealth of expertise that women hold here in Southeast Asia. And so we were inspired by this thing that we heard about that was happening in Silicon Valley, which is a spreadsheet, a simple Google sheet that was going around with a list of female developers on there, so that, whenever someone had the excuse of not hiring a woman because they're hard to find, then, they could send that spreadsheet around and say, well, there you go, we have a full list here for you. So we thought, well, if you look at a lot of panels across the region, at any engagements, any conferences, majority of them are men who are speaking. I've spoken on a tech panel where out of 7 speakers, I was the one woman. And we're not short of female experts in tech in Brunei alone, let alone Southeast Asia. And so we decided to, so myself and one other alumna from the WLA, Tri and Lim. We did from Malaysia, so this is a a regional project for us, to put together this website where every year we can invite women to put themselves up forward to be profiled on the website. The website, built by my company, Time Solutions, would allow people to contact them safely, securely for any opportunities for speaking engagements, mentoring, whether you want to be mentored by them or to mentor them, or any collaboration directly. And this allows you to sort of go through this directory of women from across different countries and across different sectors and find someone that you want to connect with. And so if you're interested in looking at that, any YSEALI members who would love to be mentored by some of these women, if you're wanting someone to speak at your regional events, please do look at southeastasiawomen.org, all one word, and we'll be there. Or you can check out the Instagram account, Southeast Asia Women, and I'm sure we can we'll tag it somewhere, maybe on the YSEALI Instagram page as well. Either way, that was the goal. It was just to, one, not only make it easier for organizations to find female speakers and remove that excuse, but also allow for more people to access mentors and role models who are similar to them. And I think that's what speaks to representation.
That's fantastic. And we'll definitely put that link in the description of the video below. And just as I was asking that, an audience member, Fitra, asked the same question, wanted to know about your website. So great minds think alike. I know I'm supposed to wrap this up, but I do have one more question I want to ask you, and that is about the diversity of women. So in the past year, we saw a very exciting first in 2021 when we inaugurated our first vice president woman of color. And the president of the United States has recently announced the first Black woman should be part of the US Supreme Court. So please tell us a little bit about the diversity of the women who you have been able to get to know through the WLA network and the Women's Leadership Academy program. Beyond geographic diversity, talk a little bit about the diversity of women in this program.
Oh, well, I think that's a wonderful, I guess, a wonderful feature of the WLA is not only do you get to meet people from different sectors and industries usually, but cultures and racial backgrounds, cultural backgrounds from across Southeast Asia. This is one of the most diverse regions in the world, really. I think like the number of languages, the number of different types of people who live in Southeast Asia, just within each country, let alone the whole region itself, is really amazing. And the WLA pulls them all together, and being able to I guess connect with women from so many different backgrounds over something that you all share, which is women's leadership, but also, especially now that you have themes across very similar themes, it's been really eye-opening, one, to realize that there are more similarities and differences, but also how the cultural nuances that everyone experiences can really bring different light to the same challenges that you face. And so the opportunity to learn from each other has been the most valuable thing, I think, that I experience, and I know others share as well when it comes to WLA, especially when it comes to, and we were talking about just now, sort of the cultural, challenges to achieving gender equality, for example, the barriers that you face, and having the exposure to all the different, the diversity of women facing similar issues as you has really not just given you hope that it's something that everyone can understand, but ideas. So I'll give you one example. The 2018 cohort, I think, when the first board of country leads for the WLA Alumni Network, which I was a part of representing Brunei, we went to Bangkok to hold a small satellite event for the WLA Alumni Network. And we talked about some of the projects that were happening. And we had a speaker from the Philippines, actually a speaker from Thailand, sorry, it was another grantee for the SEEDS project. That deals with gender-based violence, and she was a lawyer. And one of our country leads from the Philippines was also working on a similar issue, and then they bonded over that. And not only that, shared sort of lessons of how they try to tackle similar issues in each country, and how each cultural challenge but also opportunity could be learned by each other. So that is extremely valuable. And I think the YSEALI programs that are run are some of the best avenues for the young people from different countries in Southeast Asia to be able to connect. So it's really done a world of good in terms of building those bridges.
Well, that is a wonderful way to end our conversation, on a message of hope. Even though I wish we could talk for another 30 minutes, I had plenty more questions I wanted to ask you, including about teas in Brunei, because that's one of my things, is finding lovely herbal teas. But COVID, hopefully we're getting past COVID, and I'm going to be able to visit Brunei and have some tea with you. And hopefully you'll be able to show me some spots in Brunei, and we'll have another conversation.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much, Jason.
Thanks so much, Aimee. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to our audience, and thanks for the audience members who sent some love, including James. Thank you for your emoji. Made us feel good. So until the next time, audience, if you have another guest, amazing Southeast Asian we should be interviewing, please share a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Well, that's all for now. Take care. Until the next time.
Thanks. Bye.